Welcome to Design Build Workshop. Today we're going to work on designing, 3D printing, and finishing HL scale railroad trestles. Come on along. So this was the original concept or the original piece that I was going to produce for my trestle on the HL scale train. And this was just the first one that I made and the one I'm happy with as far as the design is concerned. I was originally going to do the whole thing out of wood, out of these small pieces of wood, and was thinking about, as far as the 3D printer was concerned, was actually making my fixture to lay these pieces in, glue them up so I can make sure everything was consistent, because I think I've got to make about 40 of these, maybe somewhere around there, probably around 40 or so. But then I thought, well, maybe I can just 3D print the whole thing. Now that's a little complicated, mainly because of how this is constructed. You've got a lot of hollow spaces in here. You've got pieces that, like, this is the most proud piece of the whole thing. So you've got all this depth to deal with as far as supporting this, whether it's laying down like this or standing up like that. I mean, there's going to be issues with printing this. But I thought I would go ahead and give it a try, so that's what we started to play with. So the first attempt was this one, and when I printed it, I had it in this orientation. So from the top down, or from this side, it looks great, but on the back side, you can see I've got lots of loose strands that are coming through here, and that's because I printed this without support, and I did that on purpose. I really try to avoid using support as much as possible, and I knew this was going to fail because this was going to be basically printing in midair, and obviously the printer can't do that. But I wanted to run it just to see, how bad each section was going to be and what I needed to do as far as support was concerned. So the next one, I thought, well, if I had that failure this way, what if I put it upright and printed it, as it stands, or the way it's supposed to be done. So that came out pretty well, but the same failure that I expected to happen was that these pieces which hang out, because the printer can't print in midair, there's nothing to support these first layers that it's laying down. So there's a whole lot of this going on. And that you can see that through the bottom of everything, and a lot of degradation in these edges right here. So the third attempt, was to add some support. And the way I did that was I was trying to think of the engineer in me was saying, well, you can't just have these pieces up here without extra support. So what I did was I designed a piece of what I guess I would call angle iron with a web that goes underneath each piece, each one of these verticals, right? And the idea behind that was, well, twofold. One, I thought it looked kind of neat. I like the detail of it. It was also there to kind of support these pieces that were going across, these heavy beams that were going across. But because of the web that I've got built into that, right, it sticks out a little bit. So it's actually going to support some of these layers, so I don't have to span so much, right? And you can see that was somewhat effective because it's supported right here, and then it loops back out, right? Same thing here, where you can see it kind of looping back out. So this did work. It just wasn't enough. It wasn't close enough to keep this thing from falling apart. And you can see, of course, the edges are really bad because there's nothing at all holding that. So the next to last one was this one, and I went ahead and put support in. So I put support between these two uprights, these two right here and right here, and I put some support on either end right here. And that worked pretty well, but you can see at the ends right here where it's getting a little rough. That kind of failed a little bit. And you can see you can see some lines, some print lines. I'm not sure if you can pick that up, but there's some print lines right there. So I thought I'd try one more, and you can see right here, right? where that's degraded. So the last step, I added a little bit more support. So I had 2 supports between each of these, right? And then I had 2 supports on the ends out here. And what that did, and keep in mind, these are all just out of the printer. All I did was break the supports away. So these haven't been cleaned up at all. So, you know, I usually will file and sand to get these pieces a little cleaner. But this one I feel like is actually a usable print. I'm pretty happy with this. I'll probably change a setting on my printer because you can see the backside here got a little rough. I think it's just a setting I need to adjust. We'll see. You can change the speed a little bit. But so anyway, I think this one came out, you know, very usable. It was also printed this way. So I think the next step is to go ahead and run probably 5 of these at a time. Right now, this took an hour and 19 minutes to print. So we'll see if I can cut that time down as well. So the drawing here was the original design for basically the 3D printed fixture piece that would basically allow these pieces to be put in place and then glued up. This was dimensionally correct, so this is where I was going to start from. Now, over here, this is the model in 3D, and like I said, this is the modified version, so I added these pieces here that look like as if they were, you know, angle iron pieces that were put in place. So that, you know, I thought would help with the printing problem with the overhang. But this space is too much to span for the printer. So I did have to end up having to add supports. And as far as a printable piece, it came out pretty well. I'm actually kind of surprised, even though I did have to print with support. And printing it vertically was definitely the way to go. Not having it lay on its side, you know, like this, but having it printed in the upright position. So the G code for this is the last one I did, so hopefully it'll still be here. So here is as it comes in. So we're going to go ahead and change the orientation. We're going to make this the bottom. And now we're going to add support. We're going to do custom supports of 5mm. And we're going to hit custom over here. And then I'll show you how we're going to add those supports. So we're going to kind of, I can't put one in the middle because I tried that and it was still too much of a span. So we're going to split that and do them just like that. And we will do this throughout the whole model. Then we're also going to do, right on the very end, now I would do this in the bottom here too, where these sections are, to support that. The great thing about, like I said, about the way this is supported, the way these supports print out, they're like a U shape. So there's not a whole lot attached to the model itself. So it was really easy to remove them. And because of that, I'm okay with printing with the support. So here's the printing of the piece with supports. This one came out really well. So I think this is definitely the way to go. And like I said, it was easy to remove these support pieces. So I'm not worried about printing this with the supports. Like I said before, normally I don't, but this worked out really well. I know initially I was going to go ahead and try to print like 5 sets, but I decided just to go with 2 and see how that came out. Additionally, with this piece, I also added the cement pilings, which you can see those rectangular pieces that are next to the 2 trestle prints. So once again, when I printed these out, they came out pretty well. So last night I printed 2 sets of one set, I guess, 2 pieces. I noticed that I'm still having the issue with this incomplete print. It's not bad enough for me to say it's a failure. What I tried to do was orient the print so they were going this way instead of this way. Couldn't quite figure out how to do that in my software, so I'm going to attempt it again today. I also printed these blocks here, which will essentially be like pilings. So let's go ahead and take these off. Put a lot of glue on there last night, obviously. See if I can get these. I'm just going to set these off to the side because they have to be cleaned up. I think this is, so kind of the idea here is to put one piling underneath each support. So we'll see how that goes. So here's the piece after cleaning it up and giving it an initial painting and weathering. Give you an idea what that looks like. So that back piece needs to get coated. But I feel like this came out pretty well. I still have to do the support pieces, the angle iron support pieces that I was talking about before. And those, I just need some rust color paint, which I don't have right now. So everything I do for the primer is usually always black. And this has got 3 additional coats over the top of it. It's got like a really light brown, kind of a medium brown, and then a really like an off-white for the highlights. So pretty happy with the way this turned out. Really interesting to see what a bunch of them look like together, and we'll kind of go from there. So this is the very early stages of my layout, and I'm showing you the height of the trestle compared to the supports I already have installed. These are going to be mountain areas, and then the other two tracks are actually going to run through the whole front of the layout, and they'll be all on the trestles. So after I did the double print of the 2 trestles in the cement pilings, I also decided to go ahead and print out a fixture that would help locate the glue up of the cement pilings and the trestle itself. Here are a couple of images of the trestle after I got the rust colored paint on the angle iron supports, and then I went ahead and weathered some of the beams to simulate the rust, kind of dripping down. Thank you for joining me on Design Build Workshop. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.